day and welcome back. Now today's video is going to be all about trays. I decided to make a whole range of videos, a playlist with things that happens in soap making, for example, soda ash, glycerin rivers, partial gel and so on. So if you would like to learn more of those, hit the like and subscribe and the notification bell because that is going to be in the near future. But for this one now, I know I've tried to make swirly soap many times. Sometimes it works nicely and most of the times things just turn into a thick blob and I'm throwing batter frantically into a mold just to be able to get it into the mold and just give up on all the hopes and dreams for those lovely dainty swirls in the soap. So during the years I learned that there's actually quite a lot of things that influences trays. So let's go into depth and then I'm going to teach you all the things and how you can manipulate trays so it can work for you and not against you. Okay, what is trays and do we really need trays? Now, normally in soap making, you actually just need your mixture to come to emulsification. Now, emulsification is when your oil and your liquid do not separate anymore after you start mixing them. So that usually happens long before trays happens. Now, trays is when you mix your mixture to a point where if you move, you take the stick blender out and you move it a little bit around, then it leaves the trays on the surface. So you get thin trays, medium trays and thick trays. Now thin trays is very much like very thin custard. Then medium trays and thick trays is more like a pudding-like consistency. Now for swirls, you can work with, I would say, mix your colors and stuff in while it is at emulsification stage. Okay, so let's first see what is influencing your trays. What makes your batter trays faster or slower and so on. Now the first thing is temperature, then we've got water content, oil properties, mixing speed and additives. Okay, let's start with the temperature. The warmer that your mixture is, the faster it's going to come to trays. Imagine you're walking on a cool pavement with bare feet. You can walk slowly, no problem. The moment when the sun heats it up, you're going to start to move faster to get back into the shade. So keep in mind that the warmer things are, the quicker the molecules move around in your mixture and the faster it's going to come to trays. Now normally with a slow trays, if you want to make swirls and so on in your soap, I would say work with room temperature. But that's not always possible because sometimes you work with mixtures in your oil that's got a lot of stearic acid in it or palmitic acid. Now stearic and palmitic acid, melting point is around about 60 to 70 degrees Celsius or 140 to 160 Fahrenheit. So you need to work warmer with them, otherwise you're going to get end up with stearic acid spots in your soap. It looks like little white pimples. Very much look-alike to little air bubbles in your soap. It is just a cosmetic thing. It doesn't influence the how well your soap is going to work or not. But yeah, we want to make pretty soap here, so that's why we are talking about trays. Just keep in mind there that you would prefer to work at the cooler side, room temperature if possible. Stearic acid and palmitic acid usually is in your butters like shea and cocoa butter. Fats, tallow, lard is actually very high in stearic acid, and then your waxes. Soy wax is actually 99% stearic acid. So the moment when you work with those, then your soap mixture needs to be warmer just to make sure that you're not going to end up with stearic acid spots. So maybe it's a good idea to leave those out of your recipe if you want to make swirls, but we will get to that. Okay, number 2 is your water content. The more water there is, the further apart is the fatty acids and the caustic soda molecules. It's a little bit like COVID with social distancing. So the further apart these molecules are floating in the water, the longer it's going to take to connect with each other and the longer it's going to take to come to trays and become soap. So usually with swirly soaps, go for a 1 to 2 lye to water ratio, so 1 part lye and 1 part lye and 2 parts water. It's also in the soap calculator as 33%, so rather go to the higher end if you want to do swirls and have a slower trays there. Okay, then number 3, oil properties. Now the INS number I'm not sure if it shows up in all of the soap calculators. I love to use Soap Making Friend. So there you can see the INS number of the oils. Now INS number stands for iodine number saponification. INS is usually your iodine subtracted from your saponification value. So what they use this, or they developed the INS number years back when they were making commercial soap. So this is a quick check to see how fast the soap would come to trace, how fast it's going to set up, how fast they can be able to get it out of the molds so that they can make a next batch. So we don't really use that in, okay, this is not really our need in soap making at home, but this is a very good indication of how fast your soap is going to come to trace. So INS of 145 is a very ideal number for your soap making if you want to do swirls. If you go much lower, then it means your iodine is going to be much higher, and then you run into problems that you can maybe develop DOS in your soap. So rather go for INS run about 145. If you go much higher, then it's just going to trace much faster. If you want to have more information around this whole INS thing, there's a lovely website, classicbells.com. I found that's actually the only place that I really could find information on what the INS actually stood for. I knew what it was used for, but I didn't know what was INS. That is it the ionic nuclear space shuttle? I didn't know. So this is where I got information. It's actually very nice. They've got lovely information on soap making. So you're welcome to go if you like reading, classicbells.com. Number 4, mixing speed. Now, mixing speed, this is where I made my mistakes, most of them in the past, because I stick blended way too much. I don't know why. It seems like in YouTube videos that the people are actually stick blending for a very long time, but most of the time these days I just stick blend really for a few seconds just to get the emulsification. So if you have a recipe with a high INS, I would advise, I'd rather mix by hand. And if you want to use a stick blender, just until emulsification, until you see that the oils and the water is not separating anymore, then move over and use a spatula or a spoon and stir from there on. This is as well, the faster you mix it, the faster the molecules are moving, the faster it's becoming soap. So just keep that in mind. Then the last one, additives. Those lovely additives that we love to put into soap. So clay is one of the culprits. Clay actually absorbs some of the water, so it will thicken up your mixture much quicker. And then the other thing is our fragrances. It doesn't matter if you use a synthetic fragrance or if you are using essential oils. Fragrances can speed up your trace, actually to the point that you can end up with soap on a stick where it actually seizes. So if you struggle with your recipe and you are working at room temperature, you know your recipe is good, the INS value is not too high, you are mixing by hand and your oil properties and everything is right, and you still struggle with stuff that really thicken up very, very quickly, then look at your fragrance oil. Try maybe a batch without fragrance oil and see if you have then lots of time to work with, because fragrance oils are one of those things that really, really can mess things up, especially your florals. I don't know why, even with essential oils, the moment when you move over to florals, lots of them just accelerate trace with speed. So those are the whole bunch of them. So just to quickly recap for you, if you want to slow down your trace, go for room temperature, your water 33%, your INS number 145 roundabout there, rather mix by hand, and no clay additives, and be careful with, I've got a hadada competing with me here. But now no clay, and then with your fragrance oils, make sure that you've got a slow moving fragrance oil or essential oil and so on. On the other side, if you want to speed things up, now this is a question many people think, now why on earth would you like to speed things up? Sometimes you're not really worried about the trace, and you're not worried about swirls and stuff, and you just actually want to get this stuff quickly out of your mold so that you can do the next batch. Or maybe you want to use soap scrapers. Those that you do one layer and you scrape a pattern on it and let it set up a little bit and then add the next one. Then, yeah, maybe you want a fast trace there. But to speed it up, you're going to do a higher temperature. Your water, go for 50%. So that means it's going to be 1 part lye, 1 part water. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Your iron ash, you can move it way up to 160 or so. Then mix with your stick blender until it's nice and thick. And then your additives and your fragrances, you can add those and it can maybe speed it up a little bit as well. So, and that is the whole thing with trays. I really do hope that this is going to help you to sort out all of your too quick trays or too slow trays problems. And please check in the description box. There is a link to my Facebook page. Share your creations with us. We'd love to see them. I do apologize. I am not very big on Facebook, so I do peek in periodically, but I'm not there every day. But I will definitely see your stuff at some time or the other. So, but it was lovely having you here. Thank you for spending time with me. And then I will see you in the next video. Be blessed. Have a lovely day. Bye.